Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, actually on a sunny day in England. Amazing, I know, I actually considered recording this outside, but then I thought the audio quality would be even worse than it normally is. So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing tournaments that I'm aware of, that have occurred, because I think that's pretty interesting to know metas, what's working, what isn't working, how everything's going. I am going to cover 3 that I've attended, and then 2 that I heard about on my Discord. If you want to know about other ones that I have not attended and do not know about, go and check out Birmingham 40k, as he has just released a video, I believe yesterday, discussing what he knows about the tournament scene, obviously situated in the US instead of the UK and Europe. One of the ones that I am going to talk about is one I TO'd. If you want to hear more about that, check out Chill Team Podcast, because the 4 guys there attended, and so obviously they are going to have different views to that tournament than I did. And if you want to know more about the one that I'm going to talk about from Spain that I heard about on my Discord, then check out John. I can't say any of the rest of his name because he's Spanish. There will probably be links below somewhere. While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. Even if you hate the video, downvote the shit out of it. That's fine. It's all engagement, honestly. But don't. You can upvote it. It's okay. Okay, so the first tournament that I took part in was 100 points, Annihilation tournament pack, and it took place in Dark Sphere in London. As you can probably tell, there's the sun right in my eyes. This is good stuff. Not distracting at all. Hold on. We don't need to see me for this. I'm just a talking voice. So let's shrink me down, and we'll have some cool artwork going on up and around and doing stuff. So at Dark Sphere, using the Annihilation tournament pack, elites were included, but it was only 100 points. We had Admech, that was me. We had Tau, we had 2 Death Guard, we had 2 Drukhari, we had Imperial Guard, and we had Necrons. Admech, for my part, at least, I took Mars and I took Agrippina. Agrippina are the ones that let you Overwatch on 5s. I don't know what anybody else took, because unfortunately I wasn't TOing it, and I was too busy focusing on actually playing games, and losing a lot. First, we had Dark Eldar, Drukhari, with rack spam. They came first, they completely dominated the tournament, won every game. Certainly, the match he had against me wasn't even a contest. It was horrific. I believe the rest of his games went very, very similarly. I know at least against one other person, he maxed out his score. So, yeah, he just completely ran away with that tournament. Now, I can't actually say for certain who came second, so let's skip to third. Third was Death Guard. Death Guard, of course, don't have a sub-faction. I'm not exactly sure what this guy was running, as I didn't play him, but I believe he was a pretty standard Death Guard list, with the heavy on Marines, not actually heavy. So basically he wasn't 16 Poxwalkers, he was less than that, but he was still, 8 Poxwalkers, 4 or 5 Marines? So not Elliot's list from Adepticon kind of thing, the slightly heavier on the Marine version. And I believe second was Death Guard again, and if that's true, I did play him, and he did that as well. So it was 2 almost identical Death Guard lists. That's about all I have to say about that one. It was an 8-player tournament. It was good fun. The scenery was very, very heavy. Very dense balls. Looked super cinematic. I felt it was too busy, but that's honestly personal feeling. Everyone's going to have a different view on it. And certainly when I show you some pictures of the tournament that I TO'd, I set up the terrain for that. And some people are going to have a fit and say that wasn't nearly enough terrain, which is fair. And in fact, talking about that, we're here right now. So let's take a look at some of those pictures. So this happened at Warboar in Bromley, which, if you don't know, is London as well. Kind of. South London-ish. There's a train station right next to it. It's fine. Now, this one was a bit of a weird one. It was 125 points. Elites, obviously. But it was 4 rounds of Objective Ultima. No secondaries. So it wasn't an official real tournament pack. It was just you have to play Objective Ultima. Now, obviously, everybody that went here knew what they were playing. So we can kind of assume that some people may have tailored their lists specifically, knowing that there's going to be a fight in the middle, and in some manner you are going to have to deal with the opponent being right there. Let me just go over all the factions. So we had Imperial Guard as Talon, Tyranids as Kraken, Tau as Borkan, Harlequins as Frozen Stars, Agmech as Mars, Space Marines as Space Wolves, weird, right? Tyranids as Behemoth, Grey Knights, and that's it. So it turned out to be a 10-player tournament in, again, this kind of weird meta of only playing Objective Ultima. I just read it out in the order that it came in, but first was Imperial Guard with Talon, second was Tyranids with Kraken, and third was Tau with Borkan. Now, I actually spoke to the Imperial Guard player afterwards, and he gave a really good rundown of his games, which, if he had any sort of social media presence, I would link to, but he doesn't, unfortunately. He should probably sort that out, because he gives a really good rundown of his games. But he kind of came away with the idea that actually Talon didn't work for him. Again, Objective Ultima meta, so maybe it works for other things. But yeah, and certainly me thinking through when does Talon work, it's really strong. For those of you unaware, Talon is where you can assault and still fire, basically, and if you have with rapid fire weapons. And if you have an assault weapon, you no longer take the -1 to the penalty for having advanced. Generally, you are going to be advancing first turn, probably. You probably won't after that. I mean, maybe you will on turn 4 as you make a final mad dash for objectives. But actually, on this one, there was a lot of gun lining in almost every game. Gun lines actually did kind of well. You just stand at the back. And of course, if you're a gun line, Cadia works really well, as if you don't move, gives you, basically makes all your guys snipers. You can reroll 1s if you haven't moved that turn. Now, saying that, there was actually an Imperial Guard player there who came last, and he ran Cadian. So, obviously, the theory doesn't quite match up with the practice there, but, dice are a thing. I don't know. Either way, the guy that won it agreed that Talon probably wasn't the best one to go with. Second place was Tyranids with Kraken. This was actually James from the Chill Team podcast. I've now met all 4 of the Chill Team podcast members. I'd only met 3 before. I finally met Toby this time. Great bunch of lads. You should check out their podcast. Obviously, you probably already listen to them. If you don't, there may or may not be a link in the description below me. I don't know. But there should be. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about his tactics too much, because he's obviously going to be talking about that on the Chill Team podcast, and he knows it infinitely better than I do, because he actually played it. Now, the third place, the Tau, the Borkan, I saw a few of his games. A nice guy called Tom. He did really well when it came to shield drones. He managed to use Savior protocols a lot. He kept a lot of his guys alive through that. And I think, bizarrely, Tau, with Savior protocols, he was almost playing them as a durable army. So he had the standard, snipers to shoot people off, and he had a stealth suit as his leader. But he was mainly drone spam, but not crazy drone spam. It's not like they were 18 on the board or something stupid. But he was mainly using them to Savior protocols, his Pathfinders, etc. He was just really hard to take down, and that's how he won. And that obviously worked. And then he managed to get multiple drones on the central objective, and then just score 2 a turn, while his drones were kind of tanking everything. It worked for him, so that's good. Certainly, I personally haven't really seen that happen before. Whenever I think of Tau, I think of them as being kind of a glass cannon. Yes, there will be drone spam. Yes, they will have a lot of shots going through to you on 6s. But he played them more durable. So that's interesting for me personally. I'm sure all the Tau players out there are going to say, well, yeah, of course they were durable on me. Come on, glass, jeez. Interestingly, Harlequins, who was Joe from Chill Team podcast, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. He actually had the highest VP score of everybody in the tournament, but unfortunately he only won 2 games instead of 3 or 4. The winner, of course, winning 4 as he went undefeated. I won't speak too much to it, but yeah, he had some very strong games, and then he had games where he got tabled, which I think is kind of just the variance of Harlequins. You're a very fragile army. Yes, you've got the 4-up saves, but if you're up against Imperial Guard lasguns, The only other thing I'll really mention there is the other Tau player, who again, Chill Team Podcast guy, actually brought a crisis suit, which I was excited to see. In 125 points, he took him as his commander. He didn't die lots, which was cool. So, he managed to tank through the games, but obviously he came second last. So, possibly not the most competitive thing in the world. Okay, and then the day after that, after me TOing at Warball, there was then what I'm going to term Rob's barbecue. So this was just a friendly gathering of local players at one of their houses. A lovely venue, of course, lovely venue. And while there, we actually played, there were eight people, and we played the SoCal Open tournament pack, because why not? So even though it was a small tournament and there were just kind of local people, so you could argue it's not the most competitive scene, obviously. We were all being very friendly, very forgiving. But we still played a proper tournament, bizarrely, and we did go by the SoCal and the SoCal FAQ and all that stuff. Now, I actually got to play in this one, which was pretty cool. So let's go the other way up. So last place, I believe we had Space Marine Salamanders. Then we had Space Marine Space Wolves. Then we had Space Marines, I don't know, because I didn't play him, unfortunately. Then we had Deathwatch. Then we had Space Marines Ultramarines. So yes, we had 4 Space Marines players there. That's a lot. There was a lot of death denied, I assure you of that. Then we had Thousand Suns in third. Then we had Imperial Guard Talon in second, who was the same player, Pete, as who won the Warball tournament the day before on the Saturday. And then finally we had Necrons. I was the only person, I came first, who actually had 2 dynasty sub-factions available on their list. So I ran Mephrit or Novok, which did lock me into 2 hard lists. Like, there was no room to swap them around, but I knew that if I was taking my shooting army, I wanted Mephrit, which gave me an extra -1 to my AP when I shoot, or close combat. Or I took Novok, which allowed me, with my close combat guys, to reroll hits in the fight phase. It did mean that I was very inflexible. I could either take range or I could take close combat, but it seemed to work. Although I say it seemed to work, the only game I lost, which was to Deathwatch, was when I took the range list, which I didn't take again. I only took that once. So clearly that's just a bad list, and I should probably just take the Novok every time. So what was I running? Well, no, let's go over Imperial Guard first. So Imperial Guard, Talon there. No, Thousand Suns, sorry. He was, so 125 points this was, sorry, SoCal Open. So it was 125 points, elites. The Thousand Suns was running kind of what you'd expect. He was taking a Soul Reaper Cannon. He was taking as a heavy. He was taking a Scarab Sorcerer Interminator Armoner? What? The Scarab Occult Sorcerer Terminator, I think, as his leader. And then a standard Sorcerer, Rubric Sorcerer dude, combat with Hand Flamer. And then filled the rest of the list out with Zangors. You can get a lot of Zangors in there, I've got to say. It was a bit of a scary list. Imperial Guard. Now, I didn't actually manage to play Pete, unfortunately. Petey boy, I don't know. I know that he had brought along a Bullgrin today, as obviously it was a much more friendly tournament. I asked him how did it fare, because I love the Bullgrin models. I want them to be something people want to use. And he kind of said, it did things. You know, it blocked lanes. It was tough to take down. It was a great distraction card effects. But did it, did it do what 3 Plasma Scions could have done? It's a different unit, and he kind of agreed it's not the best choice, but it wasn't ineffective. It did something, but it did something that maybe he didn't, or maybe changed the way he played so that he wasn't playing optimally for guard. But again, bit of a friendly tournament, so it was cool to see it happen. I believe he was taking the 2-up save, the slab shield, whichever one. The one that gives you the 2-up save instead of the 4-up invuln. And I know he had Pious Vaughn And I know he had three scions who were one with a plasma pistol, I think, one with a melter, and one with a plasma. So, you know, doing the hot drop of scions right behind you, 5 inches away from your leader, melter to the face, job done. I suppose the only thing, so I'm not really an Imperial Guard player. The only thing I can really say about that is Pius Von is almost an auto take in every Imperial Guard list that allows it. Note that Nova, ran by Michael Brandt, will not allow any Blackstone Fortress models. That includes the Servants of the Abyss and all of the heroes. So Pius Von is not viable at Nova, which is very interesting. Apparently that is because none of those rules were play tested, I believe. That was just GW just threw them out there. They didn't go through play testing at all. Which I know is strange. You may be thinking, but Glass, I've played Kill Team. Did any of it go through playtesting? And apparently, yes, quite extensively. It is relatively balanced as these things go, but Blackstone Fortress did not. I got carried away on a rant there, and I forgot what I was talking about, so let's just move on. Finally, it was me with the Necrons. What did I have? So with my shooting list, it was 3 Immortals, Lich Guard, Flayed One, 3 Death Marks. The idea, of course, there being that I play the rest of the list as normal. Lich Guard, incredibly strong. Flayed One, it's there because I had 10 points. And then I hot drop my 3 Death Marks, 1 being a comms, 1 being a sniper, 1 being a regular, right next to their leader or in their back line. All 3 of them shoot the same target. Hopefully I get a mortal wound through, but even if I don't, I finally have a gun that's at -1 to the AP for the Death Marks there. Which just kind of brings them up a little bit. Suddenly Marines are saving on 4s instead of 3s. They have a bit of a chance to actually do something, making their points cost worthwhile, even though you have to pair it with spending a CP to get them in position. Pretty good. Okay, so I had tested them before. I've played this list multiple times. I had 2 games with them where they did astoundingly well. I managed to table Grey Knights turn 2, partly thanks to them. It was really, really good. And I kind of put that list together as I want to make Death Marks work. But I didn't expect them to be good. But they were amazing. And I was like, the maths doesn't make sense. They're not good. This should be a middling to bad list. But I dominated 2 or 3 times. So I thought, hey, they've done well. You know, I haven't had long to practice, but it's only a friendly tournament. Let's chuck them in. So I did that, and I got destroyed pretty hard. So I did manage to get 1 mortal wound through in the entire game, and I didn't get a kill, obviously. I re-rolled a 3 to a 3, as one does. This was against Deathwatch, and this was the only game on the day that I lost because the Deathwatch player, unfortunately, I got my Lich Guard into 2 guys with Storm Shield. So 3-up invols don't care that I have a -5 AP weapon. Yeah, that was a mistake. In game 2, I played Adepts Astartes, who had come to the tournament as Raven Guard, but then decided to play Salamanders instead after realising how amazing the Salamanders rule was. That was an odd one. So this time I played my close combat list, which was, I think it's 7 Flayed Ones, a Lich Guard, an Immortal, another Immortal with comms, and another, the Lich Guard being combat, and another Flayed One as Zealot. So I dropped 3 of them into the back row, 3 Flayed Ones, including the Zealots, into the back line. Of course, in this particular game, I took Recon Sweep, I think it is, where you get a secondary point if you have a guy in the backfield. Brilliant. It's like an auto include. Really, I should have also taken the one that you have to be within 1 inch to get a score, of 3 different sides. That would have also made a lot of sense. I did not, because I'm a bit silly, apparently. So he had a really strong first turn, and I was getting a little bit concerned. I was like, oh, it's gonna go bad. But then I managed to hold up one of his Stone Guard veterans, or Vanguard veterans, sorry, with double lightning claws and jump jet. What's it called? Not a jump jet. Jump pack? That sounds right. It got tied up with just a single flayed one for the rest of the game. Neither of us did anything to each other. It was amazing. 10-point model, just holding him down. That was good stuff. Makes me want to play Tyranids and just gaunt spam and like deliberately have 4-point models hold up 25-point models just to see the rage in their face. Luckily against this guy, I didn't have to go up against any Storm Shield, so the Lich Guard just kind of ripped through things. It was beautiful, beautiful to see. Although unfortunately, I ended up with him in a poor position, so he was the only person in place to hold an objective, which scored me VP, obviously. So he had to stay there, but I really didn't want him to. I wanted him to charge, but he couldn't because I needed the VP. So, you know what happens. Ultimately, I did win the game. I managed to get full points, 18 points. So it was the right call, but it felt sad for me. My third game was against Ultramarines, who, I'm going to be honest, rolled poorly. Yeah, I wish I could take more credit. He rolled poorly. He did drop like 3 Reavers in my back line, and all I had there was 2 Warriors, like 1 on each point. So one of them was in combat with 2 Reavers, or a Reaver and a normal Marine, and the other was in combat with a combat Reaver. And so they should have died. They didn't. They didn't. And that is purely because my opponent rolled poorly. I can't take any credit for that win. Necrons, you know, I believe he fully, he rolled 6s on the injury 3 times throughout the match. If he hadn't rolled 6s, he'd killed me instead. He probably would have ran away with the score. It was very luck of the dice that game. Yeah, I can't take any credit for that win. The final game was against Thousand Suns. I was pretty scared because I face Grey Knights on a very regular basis, and I know just how dangerous double Cybolt is. How did this go? So the first turn, his Terminator Scarab Lord Sorcerer dude Cybolts my Lich Guard. Now, this is my fault, of course. I probably shouldn't have had my Lich Guard be the closest thing. However, I had won initiative. I obviously am trying to get into combat, so I'd moved up as close as I could. Unfortunately, he then managed to maneuver his Terminator Sorcerer into position so that my Lich Guard was the closest model. He got off an 11 on the Psychic against my 2 wound, 20-point model there, and rolled 3 on the injury roll. My face was a picture. I was about to be very, very toxic and salty. It wasn't going to be a good look for me. Luckily, he didn't kill me. Obviously, he used a reroll to try and change the effect of a flesh wound, trying to get that kill, which, if you're going to spend a CP for a reroll, that's the time to do it. Unfortunately, he rerolled to another flesh wound, so my guy just took a flesh wound, but it did mean I was hitting on 4s from then on. Let's just say that was, yeah. Honestly, the whole game, if that had changed, he would have won. He would have won. Because without that Lich Guard, I had no way to deal with his Terminator at all. Turn 2, where I got the initiative again, I got the charge. My Lich Guard killed the Terminator. That's 45 points if he's just gone. It's hard to recover from that. Now, he did still have a lot of bodies, but I'm going to be honest, I managed to tie him up in combat. I attacked first, and because with Novok, is it Novok? Yes. I'm rerolling hits with my flayed one, so 3 dice, rerolling hitting on 3s, rerolling hits, and then 3 dice, wounding on 4s, because he had Zangors, of course, but rerolling wounds. I was generally getting 2 wounds through a turn on each model. It was bleak. It was bleak for him. Yeah, Zangors obviously don't care about AP. They've got a 5-up invuln, but I didn't have any AP on my Flare Claws. Yeah, it was a... I dominated, and I came away with 17 or 16, I think, VP, 16. but it wasn't an easy match. Like our first turn, we were both very, very tactical. We were really looking like, God, I don't know how to deploy. I don't know what to keep in reserves. I don't know what to put out there. I don't know, should I just deploy in a straight long line? Should I clump up here or there? It was actually a really good game. My opponent did a very good job of not being too salty, which is a very admirable job because I know how damn hard it is after having a Terminator get one shot. Anyway, I came away with the win on that, so well done, Necrons. Unfortunately, the death marks did not work in that particular instance, but we've got to keep trying, got to keep hope. Then we had 2 tournaments that I didn't attend, and I'm not really going to speak much about this because I don't know, but I'll just see what's there. So up in Birmingham, the north, to me, that's what I consider that. They did an arena game, an arena tournament with 100 points, no elites. So interesting, 100 points, no elites in this economy, madness. First was Thousand Suns, second was Drukari, third was Kroot, and then roughly it was Death Guard, Death Watch, Tau, Astartes, and Imperial Guard. Now remember, no elites, so sub-faction, doesn't matter. The Drukari here did not have racks. The Thousand Suns didn't have 2 Cybolts. Kroot, yeah, I mean, they can flood that arena, definitely. I've always thought that Thousand Suns were very, very strong in arena. You can get a lot of bodies on there. You've got the 5-up invols to fall back on. It's good stuff. Obviously, you do have matches that are not favourable for you. Flayed 1 Necrons, I suppose. Orcs, other ones there. Any mass, you know how invuln saves work. I don't need to explain it. But obviously, in this particular case, they did well. Drukari. So interesting to see Drukari up there. I don't think I've actually seen a vanilla Drukari list in arena before, which is cool. So obviously witches are going to be very strong because you're going to get those charges off, you're going to get that 4-up invuln when you're in the fight, and you are still going to have your special weapons and your heavy weapons to lock down corridors if need be. So while I haven't seen them there before, I am not at all surprised. Drukari, pretty strong in arena, I say. Same for Kroot, you got the bodies, throw them in there. It's been ages since the White Dwarf with Kroot released, but I remember math hammering out, and like the list that everyone is going to take is the same. You take the max Kroot hounds, the 1 Krootox, because that's a great model, or great data sheet to take, and you can only take 1, and then fill out the rest of the 100 points with Kroot. Now, unfortunately, I can't really speak to this tournament at all. This was just a guy on my Discord, a guy on Reddit called Rajusu. I hope that's how you say the name. If not, I don't know. Or maybe it's Spanish, like Rahusu. Leave a comment, man, because I have no idea. I could just call you your actual name, but anyway, thanks to him for letting me know how that tournament went down. I think the most interesting thing is that 100 points no elites is still a thing. No elites being the main interesting thing there. However, we now have a little word from John from Spain. They ran Adepticon rules, 100 points, but elites included. I actually asked him, is that just because you guys hadn't updated yet to above 100 points? And he said, no, Spain have decided 100 points is where tournaments are at. 125 for fun and casual stuff, but not tournaments. So, fair enough. Anyway, they had, number 1 was Eldar with Biltan. It was pretty much what you'd expect, or, what I saw there didn't surprise me hugely. It was all the X-Arches, in case you want to run those. All the different heavy weapon platforms, you swap those in depending on who you're up against. That was about it. They also had some flamers. Oh, and multiple Howling Banshees and multiple Striking Scorpions. The Striking Scorpions, presumably, if you want to drop 3 of them in all in one time. And it was Biltan, which is +1 leadership and reroll 1s on the shooting of shuriken weapons, I believe. Very strong. Obviously, makes all your guys snipers, which is ridiculous. You're hitting on 3s anyway, rerolling 1s. Madness. Next, we had Death Guard, which I think at 100 points, Death Guard very strong. Very, very strong. At 125, I think the efficiency of Death Guard starts to kind of slip down a bit, just because you don't get any new toys at 125. If you're playing 100 elites, you get the same toys as 125 elites. Yes, you get to put in more Plague Marines, which obviously is good, but You don't get more fighters, you don't get more gunners. And, well, unless you do, unless you weren't maxing out fighters and gunners at 100 points, but whatever. Finally, they had Tau. Guess which, Sep? That's right, it's Borkan. Once again. So quite interesting there. We've had multiple Tau across multiple tournaments, multiple formats, multiple mission packs, multiple points levels. They've all been Borkan. That, to me, sounds like there's an issue with balance. So do I have any takeaways from this? Well, no, not really. That's not really what this was about. I just wanted to tell you guys what the scene was looking like, what the metas were looking like. And, of course, this was the London meta 3 times, but one of them being quite casual, one of them being Objective Ultima only, one of them being SoCal, one of them being Annihilation. This was then Birmingham, and then which was Arena, and this was then Spain, which was something else. Now, we've got some more tournaments coming up soon. I believe there's another one in Spain coming up soon, maybe France, I can't remember. And there's also another one coming up in August so hopefully I'm going to be going to that, although they're faffing around with is it going to be August or September or whatever. So maybe I can't make it on the day, who knows. But I'm looking forward to that. I'll let you all know how it goes. I guess what I'd like to hear from you guys is if you've been to a tournament recently and there were any surprise standout winners that you were that had you scratching your head like, Tau that weren't Borkan? Madness. I'd love to know that. Did anybody run Tyranids that weren't Kraken and actually win? Did anybody run Genestealer cults and win? No. Of course not. Weakest faction in the game, am I right? Yeah. Somebody's going to get triggered by that, I know, and that's why I said it. But even not in tournaments, is there someone in your local scene that is always dominating with a faction that you don't think is supposed to be good? That'd be interesting to know. Certainly I know that Birinid is going to talk about his Space Wolves and how he managed to go toe-to-toe with other people with it. Anyway, that's what I'd like to hear from you guys, just because I think, personally, it's interesting for me. Let's not forget I'm a person that likes to talk about Kill Team. But also, I think it'd be quite interesting for the community to know what's going on in other metas. That's exactly why I did this video, because I think this kind of thing is very interesting. Anyway, this has been Glass Half Dead. I hope you've had a great day, and I hope you continue to have a great day. Bye.